Here we see this green semi-truck jackknifed, and if you look on this area, this semi has gone up on another vehicle. So these are people currently battling the virus. We see how that really shot up, and especially in these fall months. This gateway access road just next to me has reopened, though that roadblock is gone, but up on that ramp, it still remains an active investigation. El Paso does not belong to ERCOT. We are part of the Western interconnection grid for the country, so you see this huge swath of yellow. This historical marker is almost all that remains of what happened not far from here in 1918. One thing I do want to point out before we do anything else is look at Georgia once again overnight. Biden overtaking the president there by about 1,000 votes now. And this morning, the FDA released its findings that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is reportedly 66% effective at preventing the virus. Now, it's one step closer to receiving emergency use authorization, which could come as soon as this weekend. One person is dead tonight following an early morning shooting in East El Paso. El Paso police say it happened around 5 this morning on Ashwood near Yarborough. Almost 7,000 shots in total are heading to El Paso, but Hidalgo County, which has a similar population as El Paso, will be getting 11,700 doses. Some homeowners in El Paso's Upper Valley got quite the scare yesterday afternoon when a brush fire came way too close for comfort. Take a look at this video a viewer sent to us. Those flames are just huge. The fire started near Donovan and Country Club Road. They're now pulling it out of the home. We know 3 people at the time of the crash were on board the bus, 2 passengers and the driver, but we don't know about any injuries. Well, there's good news and bad news. The good news, across the U.S., the number of new daily cases is still on the way down, and more Americans are getting vaccinated. The bad news, variants of the virus could cause a surge in just weeks. Is that the gas issue is due to a power outage and not a supply challenge. So just to be clear, I know we've gotten a lot of messages from viewers, we are not running out of gas. Kicking off this worldwide phenomenon. And back here at home, Holly, we kind of have a little development in our little investigation.
First, I was like, maybe it's just something in my head, hypochondriac or something.
The fear of catching a serious and possibly deadly virus is growing for some people, causing nervousness at the thought of leaving the house, going to the store, or public places. For people like Nic Garcia, who for years has been living with severe depression and social anxiety, COVID-19 comes with a whole new set of daily challenges.
Anytime that I'm around more than 6 people, I'm like, something's wrong. I got that, itch in my throat.
Something she says happens every time she leaves her house. And she's noticing it in her son, Andy, as well.
How do you feel about learning online? My son's social anxiety is a lot worse than mine. He will not talk to anybody that he does not know.
It's a feeling Andrea knows all too well. So she pushes her son out of the house and into the world.
I need to show my son, for me, in my mind, some kind of normalcy, and that we just need to be protected. I lived a long time with being embarrassed of having depression and anxiety.
A quick search on the internet will say this feeling is called agoraphobia.
With agoraphobia, it's more like finding an escape route, and this is just like layman's terms. Like finding an escape route would be kind of like I stay home because I want to avoid being in a situation where I don't know where the exit is. So
Ivan Torres, a licensed counselor with El Paso Mental Health, says that's not what the majority of people are actually dealing with. Instead, he points to social anxiety. Here's the difference.
Social anxiety, for example, like you're gonna have people who, they'll be afraid of kind of like interacting. They'll be afraid of like being embarrassed, like being put on the spot.
Torres says while it may have taken a global COVID-19 outbreak for many to become aware of their mental struggles, it doesn't necessarily mean the pandemic was the cause.
The way I would word it is like something that's already there gets a little bit expanded. Something that's already like a problem for someone can become worse due to a crisis, right? And in this case, it's a global crisis.
While Carizal says she's figured out how to manage her mental health, feelings of heightened anxiety after the August 3rd shooting at the Cielo Vista Walmart in 2019, and consequently the one-year anniversary of that tragedy just a few months ago, may still be looming. For those people, Carrizal speaks out.
Because I want to advocate for all mental health. And I think it's very important to speak to somebody, whether it be at El Paso Mental Health or anywhere else, to speak to somebody, it's okay to say I have these problems or this here, I think I have this, and not to be embarrassed.
The mask she wears now,
I fight every day to be okay because I have to put a face for my son.
is physical. Over the years, she's learned to shed the facade to show others help is out there if they seek it. Do you feel happy now?
Yes. Am I happy all the time? No. Do I have bad days? Yes, most certainly. And those days are okay. And those days are the days that I turn to my spiritual guidance.
Taking it hour by hour, day by day, she never knows when an anxiety attack might come on, but says it's about learning to overcome them.
But I prayed about it a lot, but I said, you know what? What am I gonna lose? You know, I have to, I'm not the only one out there.
Keeping the faith and hoping her story empowers anyone afraid of getting help. Nic Garcia, KFOX 14 News at 9.
It's a story that very few people know about.
Porvenir. It means future in English. But those who lived there did not anticipate the tragedy that would happen January 28, 1918.
That they were murdered without justification, that the justice system failed them.
There once was a village called Porvenir, where 15 men stood by each other in fear.
That winter night 103 years ago, Texas Rangers and area ranchers stormed the village of Porvenir, separating the women, children, and Anglos from men of Mexican descent. 15 innocent men and boys were lined up, shot, and killed. The village destroyed. The Rangers had accused the men of being bandits.
They just wanted to blame someone, and that's who they decided to go after.
And many speculate their Mexican heritage made them an easy target. Arlinda Valencia is the descendant of one of the men killed in Porvenir that day.
This is my my great-grandfather. His name is Longino Flores.
No one was charged by a grand jury for killing Flores and the 14 other men. The massacre was the tipping point for some lawmakers, specifically Texas State Representative Jose Canales. In 1918, he led an investigation into the Texas Rangers, who were never charged. 100 years later, another lawmaker, Texas State Representative Jose Rodriguez, announced plans for a historical marker. This historical marker is almost all that remains of what happened not far from here in 1918. This and the story Arlinda fights to keep alive.
After I'm gone, I hope my family continues to keep it alive, because you don't want to have it happen again, although we know that it does.
It's one of countless atrocities reportedly committed against Mexicans and Mexican Americans throughout the Southwest United States in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Lynchings, shootings. There are even records of people being burned alive. And for decades, most of those stories have gone untold. What happened at Porvenir may not have been taught in your history class, but it is being taught now. It's a lesson covered in Mr. Joaquin Tapia's high school Mexican-American Studies classroom and in dozens of other classrooms in Texas. While many high schools across the U.S. may teach ethnic studies, only the Lone Star State offers Mexican-American Studies to high school students.
They can see the struggle of the Mexican American, what the Mexican American has endured in the past and what they have overcome to get to where we are today.
Tapia has been teaching the course for years, even before the curriculum was adopted by the State Board of Education in 2018. He says when he teaches about the Porvenir massacre, his students often ask, why?
So you gotta, as a teacher, me as a teacher, I gotta explain to them that, hey, you know what? Times were very different back then. There was a lot of racism, which there still is, discrimination, which there still is, negative stereotypes, which there still is, towards our people.
The Porvenir massacre was also the deadliest mass shooting in Texas history. That is until August 3rd, 2019, when terror returned to West Texas, leaving 23 innocent people dead at the Cielo Vista Walmart. Valencia believes there's a striking similarity between the mass shooting in her hometown of El Paso and the Porvenir massacre, where her great-grandfather was killed.
I mean, those men at Porvenir were killed because of the color of their skin. That's exactly what happened here 100 years later. They were killed for the color of their skin.
Both Valencia and Tapia say this is why it's important to teach Mexican-American history to all students.
It would be great if every high school here in the district, the Isla district, in the surrounding districts, okay, and even in the state of Texas, would open up a Mexican-American history.
Tapia says that's the goal of this course, so all who have been part of the United States throughout history can be represented.
Our blood, sweat, and tears also helped build this beautiful country. It was also us. We have our history there. The only thing is, it's not in our history books.
The land where Porvenir once stood is barren now.
Like they never existed. But I'm here, proof that they did.
Living proof, and part of how the story lives on. Nic Garcia, KFOX 14 News at 9.